I'm Noor. I'm the author of Morgan Orion.
I'm Jagger van Vliet, and I'm the author of TABU.
Honestly, anytime I dive into something new, it's like a completely different process. I started off by like straight up drafting and faking it till I made it, and then I started to plan. But what really helps to get the train on the tracks for writing is to just sort of immerse myself within the world and fall in love with the actual vibe.
Yeah.
And also, like, planning to music is really good. Writing to music, for some reason, stunts everything.
Yeah.
And I found that out really abnormally late into writing Morgan Orion. So I don't know, normally I'm the type of person who just goes for it.
Yeah.
And for submitting to Wilde Press, honestly, it's about giving yourself enough time, because I really wanted to submit my first semester here, and then I sat down at a pub club meeting and they were like, deadline is September, and I was like, I'm not making that. So it's just all about time and giving yourself space to fall in love with it.
Absolutely. We were actually just talking about this before, as far as submitting to Wilde Press, and especially what kind of writing is necessary right now. And like I said, I already kind of spoiled it a bit, but in submitting to Wilde Press or any publication at this point, just writing something that feels necessary, a story that feels worth telling, because I think everything's very oversaturated these days, to the point where I think anything that feels real and that actually hits home is what's valuable in the space. I don't know. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get into writing styles later at this point.
Yeah.
But I think as far as Wilde Press goes, as far as young people and print goes, writing stuff that feels ineluctably necessary and actually real is probably the way I'd go.
Yeah.
I was not expecting it to be as out of my comfort zone as it was. That, the full editing process, editing a full novel, because I've edited short stories and articles and stuff like that before, and that's really is a totally different process than genuinely deconstructing your whole piece. I mean, I don't know about you, but also TABU went through a huge overhaul from literally the piece that they got submitted to what is currently happening, not just grammatically and copy editing wise, but structurally, the theme and the whole storyline was distinctly changed. So it was a bit daunting, because a lot of the edits were full scale switch around the story edits, but at the same time it was super valuable, I feel because especially the copy editing process of really figuring out what you want to stake a case for and what you don't want to, what is a comma hill that you're willing to die on versus one that you can okay, I can accept this paragraph being cut, versus ones that you actually feel very certain about. Because when I wrote TABU, I was really, really influenced by I'm distinctly Dadaist influenced, but also Beat Generation writers at the time that I was reading over the summer, William Burroughs and stuff like that, and I tried to incorporate that. I tried to write it in that style, and then my editors were very blunt with me about kind of dialing that back a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's that instinct within writing where you don't want to, where you want to we're young, we're avant, we're trying to write something new and in a cool style, and then kind of coming to terms with also the fact that I want this to be accessible and real and tangible and professional, in a way that I don't want to come across too much someone who doesn't know what they're doing. So there was a real world of copy editing through this that was almost refining the style a little bit more and coming across a little less disjointed. And the Wilde Press team helped exponentially.
Oh, they helped a lot.
Yeah. I don't know about you, but
The entire process of editing, like Jagger said, was so daunting.
Yeah.
Morgan Orion also went through a shit ton of changes, because the story itself is very non-linear, so it was very easy to get lost in all of the time changes and universe changes.
Yeah.
So the substantive editing team was they were genuinely so helpful, but it was just so intimidating because the deadlines were really tight. I had a solid 2 weeks to go through the entire 80-page
so
book.
quick. Oh my
Oh my
god.
god.
No.
Pearls clutched.
I was gonna say, my roommate knows that I was up at hours of the night just trying to click through get through the edits, and they kept coming through.
They kept coming, and they were like, and I had to rearrange, reorder.
Yeah.
And I was a PA on set for I was on a BFA set, so they were putting me to work, and I was just miserable. But I was also sort of trying to chug along on the book.
Yeah.
And it was just, there was everything sort of going on, and then there was the book, and it was not compatible with college life itself.
But we get it done.
We got
it done.
We gotta do another one. We got it done. No! Oh my god! Why are you
sunglasses indoors? Oh shit! Nice.
That was a good one.
Yeah, just do it. I think the idea of exposing a part of yourself in a novel or in any sort of writing sense is wicked daunting to anybody. No, I think some people get freaked out by that, and I think I definitely did too, because I think the process of submitting to Wilde Press felt very easy, because I just hit the submission almost not feeling like it was going to be accepted.
Yeah.
So that once it was, kind of coming to grips with the fact that some really, some personal or intimate or emotional things that are going to be in this are going to be read by a large populace. But at the same time, that's super rewarding and gratifying and beautiful in a lot of ways, which is I think what anyone that submits to Wilde Press or any other publication should take away from that is expressing yourself like that is the beauty,
Yeah, to circle back to the point you made about stuff being necessary, or books sort of having a purpose or needing to matter. It's genuinely, it is scary to put yourself out there, because not only are you putting your general emotions out there, but you're sort of spending a lot of time by writing and submitting, not just to Wilde Press, but to anything. You're investing a huge amount of time, and if you don't have fruitful results, you feel like it's wasted.
Yeah.
But genuinely, just understand that time and effort is never wasted, because even if you do get rejected, you learn, and you've worked hard, and no doubt if you're writing, you've enjoyed writing. So not to quote John Lennon, the biggest asshole of any century, time you enjoy wasting isn't wasted time.
We were also talking about this earlier.
Oh my god!
And I'm actually kind of heartened that we I think we share a bit of similarity in the sense that I feel like there's a select few people that think that writing is this kind of meditative, calm thing, and I think we're both talking about the fact that if anything, it's in my opinion closest akin to a manic state. You know what I mean? Where I always use the word buzzing. You kind of feel like there's some sort of like electricity almost, if that makes sense. I do most of my writing at night, and then most of my editing during the day, which provides a nice split between those two.
Yeah.
Especially because when I'm writing, it's you're exerting yourself a lot in an emotional and mental capacity, to the point where I just find myself super drained and or kind of just fried a little bit by the end of it, where I think if I know this about myself, that if I write during the day, that does I need to take a nap or something after, because I just can't, and so being able to write at night is kind of nice, because once you're done, you can kind of put your head down and just reset, But during the writing process, it's an absolute, we've talked about it, it's an absolute frenzy, you know what I mean? And it's especially with something like TABU, and I think with something like Morgan and Ryan rather, they're such frenetic pieces that things are happening in such rapid succession that it really does feel like you're experiencing something when you're doing it in a way that's a lot.
The writing process for me, it is very similar in the way that I feel like I'm losing my mind anytime I open my laptop. At some point, writing got less fun and more about a labor of love, because when I first started writing, I was just going for it, and it was a very childlike thing where I would just blur all over the page. And now it's sort of, I do the horrible thing of during drafting, I read back what I just wrote and think, this makes no sense. And you shouldn't do that. I don't know why I'm getting into the habit of quoting really horrible people, but Neil Gaiman No, I got this. It's such a shame that I got this from him because he's such an asshole.
Yeah.
But he it really helped to think like it's so much better to have a really shit first draft and to go through that, because I think my favorite part of the writing / editing process is when I'm going through my first draft for the first time.
Yeah.
Because it's fun. I have like the nuggets of absolute absurdity that I wrote in like the haze of the first draft, but also it's sort of the story and the vibe are like coming together.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I like what you said about writing at night.
Yeah.
I personally just write whenever I can, which also does happen to be
Sure.
at night.
Oh yeah, we're always. I feel like any
Yeah.
writer's always kind of like in the process of writing all the time. But
Exactly.
as far as like real stints of like when that kind of mania creeps in, and like when that real feeling of oh, here we go, like we kind of feel like the hurricane sirens start to go, you know.
But I rarely ever feel like I'm in the flow state for writing like that, because don't do this. I am so laser focused on what I'm writing.
Sure.
But once I let go, it's just somehow I feel
It's
like
hard to get back to that state.
It's very hard to get back. But once I'm in that state where like everything is going, and everything just seems to flow, the writing is also just 10 times better.
Oh, absolutely, for sure.
Like, don't sabotage yourself by thinking this is shit, I have to go back and fix it. Because I don't know, writers are very obsessive.
Yeah, which I would not have expected, by the way, because I feel like you were saying that like you one of your favorite parts is going back and looking at that first draft, and I couldn't agree more in a way that I think like the me of high school or even middle school would never have believed, because I used to hate editing, and now it's borderline one of my favorite parts, and I think it's because you kind of get to this point of like, you said it's a labor of love. Like you love what you're doing, you love what you're writing to the point where it feels gratifying to go back to it and to make it sound better, feel better, like read better, and connect emotionally better. You know what I mean? Like it actually is gratifying to do that. So I totally understand. I think we both said it that like you're like we're always writing, regardless of whether we're in like a funk. I feel like writers are always at least putting out or thinking about writing, which I think counts in that same regard.
Like one word does it.
Yeah, and but with that said, like there is kind of slumps within writing, and the way I've always visualized it, or the way I've come to visualize it, is like a circadian rhythm, kind of like a creative circadian rhythm, basically. Like the idea of like you kind of have these like resting periods of recharge, and then a spike in this kind of creative action, because like I kind of on a smaller scale, that's what we're doing when we're writing at any point. So like I mentioned, you're writing at night because in this intense, energetic state, you have to crash afterwards because your body is just not...
It's like exhausted.
It's exhausted. So in that same wider sense, it's doing the same thing. So if you write a book over the course of 2 months, you're going to need to inevitably like charge for another 2. And coming to understand that it always comes back, because you're never going to stop being a creative. You're never going to stop being an artist. It will come back. They're just swinging kind of circadian rhythm patterns, and so it's just a matter of in that lower state feeling okay and confident that it will come back. That creative side will come back, and whether that takes going out and seeing something, traveling, or going to an art museum or something like that, and reinvigorating that self, but trusting that it will come back, and trusting that while you're not directly writing, you're still accumulating life experiences, and you're still accumulating things that are going to affect and impact your writing, and you're still gonna take that and use that. It's all necessary. It's all helpful,
That was low-key advice to me.
Yeah.
I don't really think about it like that, because I'm just very anxious in the sense that every time it does happen, I never think it's gonna come back.
Yeah.
Every now and then, I'll get like the spark to write something new or revisit a passion project that I genuinely loved, and I don't know. It is about trusting that your love for it will come back, and that your skill will come back.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think writer's block, like you said, is just a product of exhaustion, but also it is a product of like lack of self-confidence, because you have more fun when you know you're doing well.
Yeah.
Like that's why I liked writing a lot in the first place, because I knew I was, not to brag, I knew I was better at writing than a lot of my peers at school.
Yeah.
And it made me feel good that I could write well. And people would say, wow, so nice, how did you write this? This is when I was like 10. But
it still does. It does
like,
that formative, yeah.
It feels good. It's not that the validation is necessary. It's just the need to know that you're doing well. Like
Yeah.
the confidence
Yeah.
is so important.
Confidence is true. I would tend to agree. And actually in that same vein, not to throw out the par for the course writer advice of but I mean reading does a huge like thing for me as far as writer's block, considering that I think this is about reading something that almost you're jealous of how good it is because you
Can I tell you?
Yeah,
I was just about to say,
Yeah.
when I read,
Yeah.
I start to write because I'm just that petty.
No,
you
yeah,
cannot be
no,
better
exactly.
than me.
No, exactly. And those are my favorite types of writers to read, are the writers that you feel almost frustrated by the fact that like, oh, if I could only ever write even a sentence as good as what your writing is. Like that's the type of reading you should be doing, because that's the type of reading that really will start to get those gears turning again. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so I would think that's reading is not to go full nerd and like be like, you guys gotta read, but you know,
You gotta read.
America, you gotta read.
You took the words genuinely right out of my mouth. It's exhausting. It's exhausting.
And like, okay. Dialing it back, you know, I've like worked in kitchens before. I mean, we're not doing something that's
menial or something we don't love.
Not menial, but even like physically laborious or like, you know, we're by no means are we struggling in that capacity.
By no means are we bricklaying.
Right. But at the same time, there is a real like I don't even think it's a mental exhaustion so much as it is emotional. Yeah, I think it does come down to the fact that you're putting, if you're writing something good or worthwhile, you're at least putting some part of yourself into the piece. And if you're doing that, then that's going to take a toll on you a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's also just like the sacrifice that any writer should be willing to make at that point. You know,
Just like time, emotion.
Yeah.
But also, there is a part of it that is invigorating. Because
Yeah.
it's not, like, I don't know, this interview has exhausted me already. Because I'm thinking about writing, and I'm just every time I go back, I'm like, oh, this is so tiring. But there's that invigoration, there's like this feeling that like, oh, I'm so excited to write this part in specific. And like when everything clicks, like, I don't know, I feel more excited when I'm making notes of what to write. Because I'm like, wait, this happens, and then this plot twist happens, and then this is why it all makes sense. And it's just like when it clicks. We had a very similar discussion to this prior to the interview.
Yeah.
Where it's just sort of, the most important part of storytelling is telling a story that matters. And it doesn't have to be like a political manifesto. It could literally be a love letter where you're just pouring your heart out.
Yeah.
It has to matter.
Yeah.
You know, it has to mean something to you.
Yeah. For it to matter to other people too.
Exactly.
And I think also I'm a big advocate for this about like I think a lot of the stories benefit from a healthy dose of like subtext as well, because I feel like that's what, like I'll describe it as like, I feel like you should write a story that's like so beautiful and specific that it would connect only to one other person on the entire globe, and yet in doing that you're connecting to so many other people. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there's this world where if you can rely on this kind of like universal subtext underneath a very unique like over a storyline, you know what I mean? I think that's going to definitely show through with Morgan and Ryan. I think that's definitely going to show with TABU, that these are very, very, very unique, specific personal stories, but it's the subtext underneath of these universal either themes or these feelings or these like this angst or something like that does widen into and that's what really touches people when they actually read these pieces, you know?
Like Morgan Orion, I wrote it mostly because I just really liked the idea of a bounty hunter in space. And all of the actual subtext came later because I would just sort of project onto him because I'm not from here. And the fact that I do like it in Boston more than I liked it growing up in Cairo, I felt really guilty about that. And I wanted that to come through in how Morgan felt about leaving his original home. And then a girl who's like friends with my publisher came up to me. She said, Noor, I really related to Morgan Orion as the daughter of immigrants. And I'm like, we're two completely different people, but like the themes of like identity and sort of guilt and this like not necessarily like I don't want to say belonging, but like being far from home.
Absolutely.
They kind of people interpret them in different ways and take what they take and leave what doesn't really resonate with them. And I think that is really the core part of a story. You put your entire soul out there, or not your entire soul, but like a little piece of it.
Oh yeah, you do.
And people just sort of take little pieces of that. Like
Yeah.
storytelling is just, it's all about connecting.
Yeah.
I have a PhD in tautology, I like to say, because I just like to repeat myself. Because I'm not just daunted by the fact that I need to get the page count up.
Yeah.
I need to get the world. So
Built.
like I need to get
Yeah.
the world around me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just thinking about like I'm starting a new project right now, and I'm thinking about how I don't know. When I get into the flow, I just sort of like to repeat things for the sake of impact because I really like saying it was hard, it was rough, it was brutal.
Sure,
and like
sure.
that's not a necessary sentence.
Well, actually, I'm curious to see what you think about that because actually one of my editors actually did remark on that same thing to me, and I've noted that for me it's become kind of more of like a survival instinct, especially dealing with a readership through high school, middle school, and then in early college that has like trouble like reading a particular like very niche style or a niche style of writing, which I feel like we both have. That I have this kind of tendency to phrase things in triplicate, just because I need that point to be made clear. You know what I mean? Like, just because I have this kind of either fear or this feeling that the reader won't understand or won't connect with it the first time, so I have to hit them with it a second and a third
and
time.
It just makes an impact.
Well, I was going to say that I've kind of learned through my experience of this that almost to trust yourself and to trust that the reader will understand, the reader will get that, and so
readers are smart.
So that survival instinct is less of a survival instinct and more of like a like reflexive, like fear tactic, where instead you should really trust that I can get this across, and I can get this across in both a succinct and a way that's powerful enough that it hits the first time. I guess I could answer it even in the way of like saying what was I reading when I was writing or TABU rather. I read, like I said, I was reading a lot of. I'm a Dadaist at heart, and I was reading a lot of that, and like René Crevel, the French writer. Who like inspired TABU, that was big. Like there's a book he wrote called My Body and Me, and that was really big. Like that the life story of René Crevel is what loosely inspired TABU. So him, Andre Breton, Tristan Zara, Hannah Hawke. I have nothing but like everyone should read The Artist by Hannah Hawke. I think it's The Artist, or The Painter rather. That's really good. And then any sort of poetry is also really good, especially if I was writing some sort of like kind of creative piece. I think like just seeing how words interact with each other in a less prose way, and like in a way that like is a bit more broken down and like primordial and like ooze. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like something about seeing words like that kind of gets your brain moving in a way that like really works. So as far as like a modern writer like Natalie Diaz and like and I feel like. And even old poets, Rimbaud, and like I can like yap about it for like days, but there's just so many people that you can just find someone that like really like alights whatever is in that switch in the back of your mind that needs to go. You know what I mean? And I don't know about you. Who are you reading personally?
Yeah, what am I reading?
What are you reading?
What am I
Tell us
reading?
what are you reading. The people want to know.
The people. Okay, so what am I reading right now? Answer number 2, because it's much more concise this time.
Yeah.
So I. No, because the camera cut out.
Alright, continue.
Okay, I used to try and read a lot of fantasy. I used to try and read a lot of fantasy because that's what I enjoy writing. But honestly, ever since my best friend put me onto a book called If an Egyptian Cannot Speak English by Noor Naga, I was absolutely enchanted. I'm using that word again. Yeah. Absolutely enchanted by sort of reading books about parts of Egypt that I personally never explored. Like, I'm grateful to have grown up in a safe and sheltered part of Egypt, but it's very interesting to read about topics that are taboo.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Very interesting to read about topics that are taboo and sort of explore the rest of Egypt through that. Right now I'm reading Woman at Point Zero by Noor Al-Sonbaty. I use reading loosely because I started it in January and I'm only halfway through because college. And honestly, I love it. I don't know, it's just, maybe it's morbid curiosity, but it's about going on adventures through books and exploring sort of what's forbidden.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, I just, branching out really helped get out of the reading slump that I was in. I don't know what I'm gonna read next. I have like 5 different lists. Yeah. And they all have Terry Pratchett books on them.
Alright, yeah.
But I don't know, right now I'm just sort of reading books by Egyptian authors and I'm content with that right now. I'm excited to see what happens next. I got a few projects I'm working on. One is my passion project, but I will save that for later. Another one is a shorter book I wanted to write, like bordering on a novella, might be slightly longer. And it's about this woman who is like one of the last living necromancers, and she commands a circus of spirits. That's what I'm working on right now. Whether or not it's successful is up to interpretation. Yeah. Is up to whatever.
As it always is. Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. And I'm hoping this one works out, but I am pitching to Emerson Independent Video. Yeah. And it's about the mob and it's about wizards, and that's as much as I want to say about that right now.
Because I leave it there. Honestly.
I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah, right.
Like we're pitching this weekend, so it's gonna be.
Good luck. That's so sick.
Thank you, Jagger. But yeah, it's a lot of supernatural, fantastical stuff because that is what I really love.
Yeah.
What about you, Jagger? What are you working on?
I'm not unfortunate. I'm returning back to an age-old piece that I have called Ersatz. It's a piece I've been in the process of writing and then rewriting and then writing and then rewriting since I think I was maybe 16 or 17.
Oh.
And just last semester it was used as in one of the book editing classes.
Oh.
And that actually gave it a lot of really, really good direction. Like I worked with 2 really good editors, Brian and Naksha, who were really, really talented and really gave it like the kind of direction that it needed as far as like creating a better story. And they're going to use it, I think, next year for that same class, but I have to punch up the work as it currently stands. Ersatz has decidedly been on the back burner while TABU's been on the rise, and as far as like that and articles and other short stories and stuff like that. But Ersatz has been just, it's always stuck to me, and it'll get done, and I'm excited for it, and I'm very excited to see what people think of that one, because that one is also a story that I feel like at this time in our country, there's things that need to be talked about that just aren't, and that are necessary. So.
Yeah. This was awesome.
Read our books.
Read our books.
Read our novellas.
Please, they're so awesome and they're wonderful. And if you read them, then there will be a lollipop at the end.
That's
and it's
so
like
true.
a nice little
That's so true,
treat.
and a real promise that we're making right now. Contractual binding. Read Morgan Orion.
Read TABU.
Nice.